about to iron on some walnut veneer to this small speaker subwoofer box. I'm checking the iron-on glue for tackiness. I'm using heat lock from VeneerSupplies.com. It's just a smidge tacky, but my finger isn't sticking to it. That tells me that it's about ready. When I put the glue on, I usually put it a little thicker on the box. The box, in this case, is made of MDF. It tends to absorb the glue a lot more than the paperback veneer does. So I make sure I put it nice and thick on this. The instructions suggest maybe you want to put 2 coats on, but I've gotten away with this method just fine. It's always worked pretty good for me. Our rounded corners, which is makes things a little more difficult because then you have, instead of corners that you can use the router on real easily, you have to have seams in the middle of the piece, which we'll get to that a little bit later. But first of all, iron's on between 5 and 6, and everything's lined up pretty good, so I'm just going to go ahead and start. Get that off. The important thing is when you're doing this that you keep the iron moving, you apply pretty good pressure down. It's not hard really, it's easier than ironing clothes. I've heard, I've never really ironed clothes before, but this sheet here, this is an old piece of cotton t-shirt. It wants to be all cotton because if it was some kind of polyester or something, it might start to melt. So I always recommend all cotton. Probably use an old flannel sheet or something like that, but I just use old t-shirts because I go through them pretty quick. So you start in the middle of the panel, kind of work your way out. You don't have to stay with it too long. I always kind of try to see where the edge goes over the piece. I try to apply a little bit of extra pressure there just to try to help that, make sure that sticks real good. Kind of just have to go nice and slow and take your time. Apply some good pressure, try not to burn yourself. Okay, so I think it's a little tricky. Seams are a little tougher than no seams, but kind of makes things look really nice when you can put some curves on them. Square speakers kind of get boring after a while when you make a bunch of them. And I'm going to try, if I can remember, not to heat up this part here, right at the very edge. Let me bring that up. Right here, I'm going to try not to heat this up, only to about here. I want this to remain a little bit, on that first iron, I want this to remain pliable because when I do the underside, I'm going to cut a seam for both, for this piece and this piece. And if this isn't stuck to it real good, it makes things a little bit easier. That'll make more sense in a little while when I get to the next step. Alright, so this one's done. If you can see here, this is not glued down yet. When I put the other piece and iron that on, I will cut a common seam both at the same time. Then when I iron and glue it down, it'll make a nice seam and I won't have to mess with peeling this up. If you can see, it's a darker brown here than it is here. That darker brown indicates where the glue is on the previous gluing that I did. That is still going to be able to be worked with. You can still heat that up with the iron and have the veneer adhere to it. So I don't have to re-glue that. I just have to go where there isn't glue. So I'm going to do that now. This roller is the best for this. If you were to try to just do this with a brush or something, you can go on even. This really makes it kind of like foolproof and gives you the perfect amount of glue to have on there. And this is the veneer here, paperback veneer. Same process. just want to make sure it's spread, you know, nice and even and everything. Without making too much of a mess. Once I've got it on real good, I might just use some blue painter's tape to stick it onto the countertop. If you don't do that, it'll slide all over the place. And when you go like this with the roller, you'll get glue here, and when it slides, you'll get glue on the back side of it, which you do not want. So right there, except for a little spot there, there's no glue on that at all. And that's perfectly fine, just sitting there waiting for this and this to dry. Okay, I'm getting ready to iron the veneer on the back of the speaker cabinet. I've applied blue painter's tape to the very edge of the veneer that's already on there. As you can see, there's a gap that I've left on there on purpose, so that when I put this on, I can trim both at the same time and I don't have to worry about that being super stuck to it. So, alright, I'm hot. I'm ready to go. This is all dry to the point where it's not tacky. It feels just a smidge tacky, but your finger doesn't stick to it. That's where you want it. This is the iron-on glue from VeneerSupplies.com. So I'm going to go over this round over most of the way, but I'm not going to do the flat part on this side yet, because I'm going to trim it right now. And how I'm going to do that is what I'm going to do is I'm going to make one cut. This veneer, this layer on top of this layer of veneer. I'm going to cut through this layer and this layer at the same time. So hopefully what happens is I get a perfect seam. Not perfect, but pretty close to it. Nothing I do is perfect. So I'm going to press down real hard, and I'm going to, this is a little precarious, but hopefully I don't cut my finger off. So I've got through the top layer, now I just got to get through the bottom layer. So this top layer is free. I'm going to peel back the blue painter's tape. And hopefully I've gotten through, I think I have, let me just run the knife through again just to be completely sure so I don't screw something up. Just making a second pass. The groove there is real obvious, but I'm just going to run through it again. And then previously, when I told you that I didn't want to iron this piece all the way to the edge, wanted to stay away an inch or so, this is why. So that I can have a chance of peeling this off without it having permanently stuck to the underlayment. That's coming off pretty good. Just be slow with it, patient, take it easy, don't rush it. It's like taking a sticker off. If you go slow, it comes off better. Boom, okay. Well, there's a couple little pieces there where it did lift a little bit of the finish up. So I have some leftover glue. I'm going to put some of that on there. This happens every once in a while. Nothing to worry about. Okay. Sometimes, even though you take all these precautions, I don't know if you can see, this is the piece that I took off of there. When I was pressing down to slice through both of these pieces, it did stick a little bit and leave, or rather take some of the paper off from the underlayment. It actually took the layer of glue off, but I know it looks really haphazard and everything, but once you get it glued up and get some polyurethane on it, it's amazing how much any little boo-boos can really disappear. So I'm just pressing it down by hand. The seam feels really nice. If you can see, seam feels good. I'm going to put the iron on it. I'm not going to go to town on this too much because I don't want to press down too hard on the other side because I still have the other side to do. But for now, that's not looking too bad. Okay, so this one's ready to do the same thing. I'm going to put this on, find a nice point to slice through, a lot of downward pressure. Slice through both layers. Okay. So this is the piece that's associated with this new piece I just put on. I'm going to take the blue painter's tape off. Ooh, and that piece came off right with it. That wasn't stuck on there very well at all, which is a good thing. Ooh, that's nice. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So now I'm going to take my iron. I'm going to start on the side here. This is the new spot here that I just put on. This is the one that's on previously, so this is the seam here that I'm working on. So I'm going to work my way this way. Okay. So there's that seam. It's right here. I mean, you can see it, but in the grand scheme of things, you're really probably not going to be able to see it very well, if at all. So anyway, if you do have a gap, just get some of this stuff. It's Elmer's Carpenter's wood filler. This one here is walnut color, and it really matches the grain and the color of the walnut that I'm using almost perfectly. So that's it. This seam came out really good. Nothing high-pitched like that. That's the end that's hanging over. This is what I always do to make sure everything's stuck down real good. This is a 1-inch round over. 3/4 inch round over would probably be about the limit for going with the grain like this. If you were to go against the grain, I'm not even sure you could get it down that small. Well, you probably could. It starts to crack though. So 1 inch is probably about the limit. Might be able to go a little bit more. So that's it. There's the seam right here. Not very visible, and you can see it, but once I get done sanding and put a little bit of that wood filler in there, you'll never know. So these are the two subwoofers that I was working on. Right here, I've got about 4 or 5 coats of polyurethane on, but just wanted to show you where the seam was. Try to zoom in a little bit where I think it is. You can kind of see by the change of grain direction there where the line is. But I tell you what, you can't see it just by looking at it. You'd have to like really examine this thing. And even with that veneer that you buy on a sheet comes with, it has seams in it, you know. It has, they're just not made of a 2-foot wide slice of wood. They have seams that they do themselves. Like here's one here that's naturally in the wood, just by the way they join the veneer together. So there are seams in there anyway. Came out pretty good, I think.